Hi, I've got a question to ask you. What would Jesus do? The earliest known instance of the use of this phrase was in 1886. A minister in America, Charles Sheldon, used this question for the basis of a series of sermons. Each sermon ended with the question, what would Jesus do? People kept returning the following week to find out the answer to the cliffhanger. Sheldon's sermons were published in a book, In His Steps, What Would Jesus Do? Sheldon was a great forward thinker. He was an advocate for equality. He believed we were all equal in God's eyes, and if this way of thinking was good enough for God, it should be good enough for everyone. A few years after the publication of his book, the editor of a newspaper gave Sheldon full creative control over the paper for a week. Sheldon endeavoured to run the paper just as Jesus would. The paper went from sales of 15,000 to over 350,000 in just a few days. He sought the opinion of and listened to each employee, including the janitor. He valued each person as an individual, as an important member of the team, each with their own set of skills and ideas. Asking himself, what would Jesus do? Made a difference. It changed things. Jesus used parables and miracles in his teachings. He refused payment for healing the sick, raising the dead, or driving out demons. He said, freely you have received, freely give. His miracles were works of love and mercy. They showed compassion for the sinful and the suffering. Every single miracle Jesus performed was an act of love. In Luke 10:25-37, the story of the Good Samaritan, Jesus challenged people, love your neighbour. But who is your neighbour? What would Jesus do? Jesus crossed social barriers. He mingled with the tax collector, the adulterer, the prostitute, and the outcasts. People were horrified, but he warned people to remember their own imperfections before condemning others. Why did some people have a hard time with Jesus and his teachings? He challenged the rich, the greedy, and the selfish. He challenged what they believed and cared about. He upset the status quo. Jesus taught that the first ones to be included in the kingdom of God were the poor, the rejected, the outcasts. Not the most popular nor the most powerful. Jesus challenged people to do the right thing, to help others, to give of their time, their talents, their money, and themselves. He challenged people to look after the poor, the needy, the sick, and the most vulnerable in society. In John 14, verse 12, Jesus says, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. If we all pause before speaking or doing and ask ourselves, what would Jesus do? And then listen for the answer, we might begin to change ourselves. And if we all did this all the time, how different would our world look? If we have accepted Jesus into our lives, we need to accept the challenge. It's not an easy journey. It's not for the egocentric, but it's a journey full of love and rewards. Who is your neighbour? Who can you help? A smile, a wave, a phone call, an offer of help. Have a think. What would Jesus do?